In the small towns of rural North Carolina, she was known as a devout, church-going grandmother who cared for the elderly and read her Bible. The people around her trusted her completely, and one by one the people closest to her kept dying. This is her crime. Velma Barfield was born Margie Velma Bullard on October 29, 1932, in Eastover, South Carolina. She was one of 9 children, raised in a strict Pentecostal Christian household. Her father was physically abusive, and her mother did not intervene. At 17, she dropped out of school to marry her boyfriend, Thomas Burke. The couple settled in Parkton, North Carolina, and had 2 children together. For 15 years, by most accounts, it was an ordinary life. In 1965, Thomas Burke was involved in a serious automobile accident. He began drinking heavily to manage the pain. The marriage deteriorated. Then in 1969, while Velma was away from home, the house caught fire. Thomas Burke died of smoke inhalation. Velma collected on his life insurance policy. Only months after Thomas Burke's death, Velma began dating a widower named Jennings Barfield. They married in August 1970. Their marriage lasted only months. Jennings Barfield died in March 1971 of what was recorded as heart failure. Velma was widowed for the second time. She was 38 years old. By this point, Velma had developed a serious addiction to prescription tranquilizers and painkillers, a dependency that would quietly drive every decision she made for the rest of her life. To fund her addiction, she began forging checks and stealing money from the people around her. And when those people got close to finding out, she silenced them. In 1974, Velma's mother, Lillian Bullard, became seriously ill with vomiting and stomach pain. She appeared to recover. Then at Christmas that same year, she fell ill again and died. The doctors could not diagnose the cause. No autopsy was performed. Velma had poisoned her own mother with arsenic to cover up money she had stolen from her. In 1976, Velma took a job as a caretaker for an elderly couple, 94-year-old Montgomery Edwards and his 84-year-old wife, Dolly. In January 1977, Montgomery Edwards died. Weeks later, Dolly Edwards developed the same symptoms and died. Velma confessed years later to poisoning Dolly. The same pattern, the same poison, a different household. Velma was then assigned to care for John Henry Lee and his wife, Record. John Henry Lee died in June 1977. His doctors recorded the cause as a severe stomach virus. Velma moved on. She always moved on. Later in 1977, Velma moved in with her boyfriend, Stuart Taylor, a widowed tobacco farmer from Cumberland County. She began forging checks on his bank account to fund her drug habit. When she feared he had discovered what she was doing, she mixed an arsenic-based rat poison into his beer and tea. Stuart Taylor became violently ill. Velma took him to the hospital and stayed by his bedside, the devoted girlfriend nursing him back to health. He died on February 3, 1978. An autopsy was ordered. It found arsenic in Taylor's system. Before the results were even returned, Velma's own sister called Lumberton police in tears and told them that Velma had poisoned Taylor and others. Velma Barfield was arrested. In the interrogation room, she confessed. She told police she had poisoned Montgomery Edwards, Dolly Edwards, John Henry Lee, and her own mother, Lillian Bullard. She claimed she had not intended to kill any of them, only to make them ill long enough to give her time to replace the money she had stolen. The arsenic said otherwise. At trial, Velma appeared cold and undemonstrative on the witness stand. When the district attorney finished his closing argument, she gave him a round of applause. The jury was unmoved by the insanity defense her lawyers presented. They found her guilty of the first-degree murder of Stuart Taylor and recommended the death penalty. She was sentenced to death in December 1978. On death row, something shifted in Velma Barfield. She became a born-again Christian, reading her Bible, ministering to fellow inmates and guards, writing letters to families of victims. Evangelist Billy Graham and his wife Ruth became her supporters. His daughter Ann Lotz visited her regularly. A growing chorus of voices argued that the woman on death row was not the same woman who had committed those crimes. Her attorneys appealed repeatedly. They argued she had been in severe drug withdrawal during her trial and could not properly assist in her own defense. They argued the jury instructions were flawed. They argued her sentence was disproportionate. Governor Jim Hunt, in the middle of a tight Senate race against Jesse Helms, denied clemency. Every court denied every appeal. On the morning of November 2nd, 1984, Velma Barfield chose not to wear her prison-issue dress. Instead, she put on her pink cotton pajamas. She had told her attorneys to abandon the final appeal to the US Supreme Court. She wanted to die with dignity. She asked that her organs be donated for transplant. She spent her last afternoon with her son and daughter. She refused the offered final meal of chicken livers, macaroni and cheese, greens and cake. Instead, she asked for cheese snacks and a soft drink. 3 days after her 52nd birthday, Velma Barfield was executed by lethal injection at Central Prison in Raleigh, North Carolina. Before the injection was administered, she released a final statement. She said she knew that everybody had gone through a lot of pain, all the families connected, and that she was sorry. She thanked everyone who had supported her through those 6 years. Then she closed her eyes. Velma Barfield became the first woman executed in the United States since 1962. The first woman executed after the reinstatement of the death penalty in 1976. The first person in American history to be executed by lethal injection. She was buried in a small rural North Carolina cemetery beside her first husband, Thomas Burke, the man whose house fire had started everything. The case of Velma Barfield raises questions that have never been fully resolved. She was convicted of only one murder, Stuart Taylor's, but she confessed to 4. 2 of her husbands died under suspicious circumstances she denied to the end. The true number of her victims may never be known. She wore pink pajamas and asked for cheese snacks. She applauded the prosecutor who sent her to death row. She poisoned her own mother to hide a stolen check. And on a November morning in 1984, the grandmother who read her Bible and ministered to prison guards closed her eyes for the last time in a death chamber in Raleigh. The death row granny of North Carolina. Gone. But the questions she left behind never were. Lillian Bullard, Velma's mother, died in 1974. Montgomery Edwards, he was 94. Dolly Edward, he was 84. John Henry Lee, he died in 1977. Stuart Taylor, he died in 1978. Velma Barfield first opened her eyes in Eastover, South Carolina, on October 29, 1932. She closed them for the last time on November 2, 1984, at Central Prison in Raleigh, North Carolina.